Welcome to Coffee and Tea with IWC. My name's Stephanie Herman. I'm the membership coordinator and wildlife rehab content manager for the IWRC. If you don't know who we are, we do have a good number of first timers here, so that's not going to be a given. We're the International Wildlife Rehab Council, and we're a nonprofit that supports wildlife rehabilitators and related professionals from all over the world through science based education, publication standards, as well as a number of other resources. The coffee and tea meetings being one of them. We offer these so that for free, we offer these free monthly seminars so that wildlife rehabbers from all over the world can come together, can learn, just have that ongoing education so that we can all take care of our animals better. And also so that we can connect with each other and remember how big the world of wildlife rehab really is, how many people are on your side out there doing the good work and trying to change the world for the better. And with that, I'm going to introduce Connie Needham, who is going to talk with us about wildlife and social media and harnessing that really powerful tool for conservation and the good of wildlife.
Okay. Prissy, thank you all for coming from so many different parts of the world. I'm in Vietnam at the minute, so it's 9 p.m. for me. I know people are coming at all different time zones, so thank you for being here. We're going to be talking today about social media and all of the amazing and sadly potentially damaging things it can do for wildlife. And this is something I could talk about for hours, so I'm going to jump right in. So, firstly, just very briefly, a bit about me and who I am. I'm a wildlife educator and storyteller, and I largely focus on teaching people about ethical, responsible wildlife tourism and bringing information about animal behavior and the conservation industry to as many people as possible in the most accessible way that I can. I'm also more recently a documentarian. Last year, I released my first two short wildlife documentaries, one on the impact of tourists feeding macaques, and one on the importance of community-based conservation for the red-shanked Duklanga. So those were both based here in Vietnam. And I am a trip host. So this year I'll be taking three groups of people to Cambodia and Vietnam on trips that are designed to support ethical wildlife tourism and conservation and help people learn about all the amazing work that is being done in the world by so many of the people who are going to be here today, I'm sure. And all of this work that I do exists almost entirely on social media. So social media has really given me the ability to find my place in conservation and would have never thought possible. And just to give you, again, I'm going to keep this brief. You're not all here to hear everything about me, but I promise it is important to kind of know how I got here and why social media is so important to me. So, like I think many of us in this industry, I started my career as a wildlife volunteer, which led me to go to university and study psychology, where I focused on animal behavior and carried out my first independent research project. And then research and particularly understanding stereotypic behaviors became my key focus for a while before I started working in wildlife rescue and rehabilitation, which I just absolutely fell in love with, as I'm sure everyone here can understand. And I spent quite a bit of time living and working on wildlife sanctuaries. And that's where things sort of changed for me because I recognized a pattern that I think all of us have probably seen, that there are wildlife coming into sanctuaries in need of rescue and rehabilitation over and over again for largely the same reasons. And so many of those reasons stem from human wildlife conflict. That realization is what led me to eventually leave sanctuary work and undertake a master's degree in anthrozoology. And while I was doing that, I was traveling the world, learning as much as I could about human wildlife relationships from as many different communities and perspectives and areas as I could. And it kind of led me to one key conclusion, which is that there is a huge lack of awareness about wildlife ethics, animal behavior, and conservation in the general public. And I feel we as a community have so much knowledge about wildlife, but it felt like there was this huge disconnect between the scientific community or the rehabilitation world, and the rest of the world. And that's why I eventually decided to focus on advocacy and to make all the information about this industry that I had gathered as accessible as possible. And for me, the way to do that was to start sharing everything that I learned through social media. Over time, that sort of snowballed for me and led to me growing a platform. Sorry, I got a notification there. Led to me growing a platform of over 65,000 followers and pursuing a full-time career in wildlife content creation. But the most important thing that I really want us to look at today is why social media? Why did I decide that was the place for me to be doing all of this work? So whether we like it or not, social media is becoming one of the primary tools that people are using to gather their information about the world. And now over half of US and UK adults say they get their news from social media. And particularly for younger generations, platforms like TikTok are becoming a primary news source. And social media actually is now reportedly surpassing TV as a news source for a lot of people around the world. And this information isn't being shared in ways that we are traditionally used to. So we aren't presenting information on social media through long form content, in-depth documentaries, anything peer reviewed or scientific, or even honestly using a lot of stats and facts. Instead, social media works in a way that is very visual first. So people are learning and engaging with imagery before text or further context is even considered. It is very emotionally driven. So we are responding to news and to education that is being delivered through storytelling more than through facts. It is algorithmically amplified. So we're being given content that algorithms decide will engage us for as long as possible, rather than content that is being promoted due to its accuracy or its educational value. And it is highly repetitive. Because of these algorithms, we tend to start seeing the same kind of content over and over again because the social media apps learn that is what will keep us engaged and on the app. And this repetition creates in its users a familiarity and eventually a normalization. So essentially, what we enjoy, what we are emotionally engaging with, is presented to us over and over again until it starts to shape what we're viewing as normal and common in the world. So when all of these things work together, social media isn't just informing people, it's not offering unbiased news or education. What it's actually doing is teaching people what is normal, what is acceptable, or what is desirable. So what does this mean for the wildlife industry specifically? Well, for most people now, their first and definitely their most frequent encounter with a wild animal will probably not be in person. It probably won't even be through traditional documentaries or even the educational system. It's more likely to be through their phone screens. And that's especially true for younger generations, for people without direct access to wild spaces, and for people who are outside the traditional conservation and academic spaces. And what that means for us is what we put on social media really, really matters because it is shaping people's first impressions of wildlife and maybe their whole understanding of the conservation industry. And that is exactly why I chose it as my main focus, because I don't actually think it's something we can ignore anymore. I think no matter what our personal opinions are towards it, social media is only growing in its impact, and there is a big lack of regulation over what is shared there and how it's shared. So I think as the wildlife industry and as wildlife professionals, we have to remain as engaged as possible in what it's doing. And I want to start with why I actually think this is a really good thing, because I think a lot of people have a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to social media and hate it and think it's, the root of all evil. And we'll get onto that, don't worry. But I actually think this is also a huge opportunity and can be a really, really, really good thing. So social media has so much potential to move the wildlife industry forwards. It's offering free access to education. So there are no paywalls, no need to be enrolled in institutionalized education. If you have an interest in a topic and access to a device, an internet connection, then you can learn about it. And that I think is a really, really incredible thing. It's also giving us global reach. So there is literally no limit on who your content could reach. And that helps facilitate conversations with people from all over the world, helps disperse knowledge to people who otherwise might never have access to it, and helps a lot with networking and creating connections between individuals or organizations. It's offering us increased accessibility. So information can now be presented in easy to digest formats, multiple styles, multiple languages. People can engage in education regardless of whether or not they have a scientific background or understand complicated language. And those who learn better through visual cues are more tailored to, which traditionally has not been the case in a lot of conservation fields and scientific study. And also the one that I think personally is the most incredible is empowering creators and communities. And peer-reviewed science is not the only kind of science of relevance in the world. And historically, those who learn more through the passing of traditional knowledge or lived experiences have struggled to make their stories heard. Social media can remove that barrier, and it allows anyone to share their knowledge, share their ideas, which can be hugely beneficial in broadening horizons and in creating a more inclusive space in the wildlife industry. We know that as an industry, we need diverse voices and perspectives if we ever want to actually move forwards and find innovative solutions to all the problems we're having. So I really do think social media can be an amazing tool for facilitating that. And this is something that we are seeing examples of already across social media. There are some amazing organizations and individuals that are doing things to broaden access, to create supportive communities, to share really valuable information. And also, as we all know from working in rescue and rehabilitation or associated fields, it's amazing for fundraising, for getting people to know what you're doing. And I really want all of that to be kept in mind throughout the talk because it really has so much potential to help us as an industry. It's absolutely not all bad. Having said that, for all the good social media could do, it also has a really scary amount of potential to cause harm. So we live in an era where we are inclined to copy what we see on social media. And with social media lacking a lot of regulation and being powered by algorithms that often reward very sensationalized content, that could be very, very dangerous for the wildlife industry. And we are now seeing a growing body of research into the impact social media imagery could be having on people's perceptions of wildlife. And concerns have been very specifically raised about the perhaps unintentional promotion of the wildlife pet trade, an increased demand for unethical and close contact wildlife tourism, and the humanization of wild populations, all of which we are going to talk about in a bit more depth. But for now, I just want to say that the honestly scariest part of this is that these potential damaging perceptions created through social media isn't necessarily being caused by intentional misinformation. It's often coming back to that visual first aspect of these platforms and how the visual content and imagery we are sharing is shaping what people view as normal or desirable in terms of their relationships with wildlife.